It's GameCube Index, and we're trying really hard to be James Bond. Back in 1983, Midway was preparing to release a James Bond-themed arcade game, utilizing vehicular combat and various gadgets to save the world. Unfortunately, the Bond license could not be secured, so the title simply became SpyHunter. It was immensely popular and eventually rebooted for various consoles in the early 2000s as, you guessed it, SpyHunter. The plot of the game is a classic cheesy spy movie. You are tasked with taking down the Israeli-based international super company Nostra from shutting down all the electricity in the world, and you do this by driving your car and shooting stuff. Starting out, your gadgets only include machine guns and an oil slick, but eventually you can unlock a smokescreen, missiles, a flamethrower, railgun, EMP launcher, IR scanner, and larger, heavier guns. Your car can turn into aquatic mode and float along the top of the water, and even turns into a smaller, sleeker motorcycle if too much damage is taken. Gameplay feels kind of slippery. The controls are pretty loose, and it's very hard to turn around if you accidentally get headed in the wrong direction or get past a target. Each level has a variety of secondary objectives, such as minimizing civilian casualties or tracking enemy cargo ships via GPS trackers. These are important to complete, as the game uses a progression mechanic similar to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. New missions only unlock once you have completed a certain amount of objectives, which ups the replay value as you generally complete missions over again. SpyHunter is not a pretty game, and it quickly becomes repetitive as it takes a while to both unlock new gadgets as well as have a need to use them. The fact that the graphics look rough, even by 2002 standards, also makes it tough to look at for extended periods of time, so often so that the game is played in chunks. The SpyHunter remake did well enough that it received a direct sequel in 2003, a planned movie starring Dwayne Johnson that was never released, but had a video game tie-in that came out in 2006, as well as a second reboot for handheld systems in 2012. I see SpyHunter as a shelf franchise. It had a number of titles, but for the most part, it just sits on the shelf and fills the space. Which is a shame because the idea of the series is solid. Who doesn't want to be James Bond? That is it for this week's episode of GameCube Index. If you enjoy the videos every week, consider backing us on Patreon. Even $1 a month will do a lot to support the project and help improve the experience. It's entirely up to you. Either way, please continue to show your support by subscribing, sharing, following along on Twitter at GCNdex and at GCNdex.com. Thank you so much for watching. Tune in next time when we actually do catch up with Mr. Bond in James Bond 007 Agent Under Fire.